Well, hey, you honorable assholes. Welcome back to the BS Talk experience where we talk about shit we shouldn't. Now, if you haven't seen part one of the Kenny story, the link will be down below. Make sure you listen or watch part one first. But without further ado, here is part two of the Kenny story. Check it out.
We had put paperwork in on an officer in Englewood, Colorado. Word to the wise, don't ever mess around in the federal penitentiaries, because when you put paperwork on a cop, like write him up saying, oh, this guy was like looking at my butt and making weird homosexual comments. That's what we did, because he UA'd us all, because we were all spun to the hubs in the federal joint. Thought, oh yeah, that'll keep us from getting UA'd. Oh, well, it did. We all went to the hole, and they put me on a either van, bus, or plane and flew me from, I think, El Reno, Oklahoma, to Santa Fe, New Mexico, to somewhere in Texas, to Lompoc, California, to Oregon, to Sacramento or somewhere nearby, California, back to Oklahoma, and then finally to Phoenix. And when I got off the plane in Phoenix, they took me straight to Alhambra and straight to SMU, Supermax. Mm-hmm. So, didn't work out too good. With that being said, I had a 7-4 number in Arizona, got to SMU, did I think 9 months there, went straight to Kaibab North, which is in Winslow, got in a riot, got in trouble at Kaibab North. They had just built Kaibab South, which was the higher. Kaibab North was a medium. This was a high medium. First 50 people moved there, and everybody knows who those 50 were. There was a lot of straight up folios. I was one of them. Opened the South Yard, was working, building the ACI building in the gym, making wicked double-bladed pieces, which are shanks, whatever you want to call them, 10.5 size boot. Fit right in the boot. Thanks for asking. When they found the first one of those, they were so terrible that they shut the yard down, brought the National Guard in, and combed the yard for 3 days with metal detectors and National Guard looking for those knives.
Wow, I mean, you got the National Guard called on you.
Well, so to speak.
Okay.
Cold on the prison yard. So there was a huge riot, blacks and whites, which, believe it or not, it's true. I wasn't actually in. I was locked in the chow hall, handed an officer my shades and said, make sure those get on my books, and diffused the situation in the chow hall because we were way outnumbered. They had us dead to rights, the blacks. And the shot caller was a friend of mine. He lived in the cell right next door to me, Frankie. Give you props for that one. Thank you. Him and Twin.
Thanks, Frank.
Him and Twin were cellies, and everybody who's anybody at that time knows every name I'm saying. And so I got written up for being in the middle of a riot that I wasn't even in. So I ended up going straight back to SMU, doing almost a year there. And from there, went to Mojave Unit, got to the yard at Mojave Unit, saw a child molester who we had tried to whack at Kaibab South Yard, and an officer actually put the paperwork, I can't give his name up, put the paperwork under my pillow while he was supposedly searching my cell. I read it, boom, we put it together, hurt the dude bad, but he lived. So here I am after all that stint in SMU, get to a Mojave Unit in Douglas, and I'm minding my own business in the library, reading the paper, and guess who walks in the door? Same guy. So instead of completely hiding and doing it right, I dropped the paper and said, wow, what are you doing here? The guy turned white, ran out. I had a youngster find out exactly where he lived, put it together, and boom, they whacked him and they air vacuumed him out, allegedly. And I went to the hole because when he saw me in the library, he put a kite in real quick before his demise.
He put a what in?
A kite, which is a prison letter saying, this dude from Kaibab Unit is here and just saw me and I'm in trouble. It's pretty much what it said. So,
Like a tattletale note to the police?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Great description.
Thank you.
So I went to the hole, was in the hole about 7 months for that one. And they had a big Mexican north, south, or whatever it was, internal Mexican riot. And they came around asking people, because I had been in there so long, if they wanted to go back out on the yard. And of course, I was begging to go back on the yard. I said, absolutely, you'll never hear my name again. I'm about to get out anyway. So they let me out. And like 3 weeks later, one of the hugest riots in the state of Arizona Department of Correction system, it was called the food strike riot, happened, and it was the whites against every other race over a food issue. And literally, it was brutal. And a lot of good people got hurt bad. So when they pulled the prison, after being zip tied for like 20 hours on the yard, they pulled 2 buses in, and the second person called was yours truly, me. Got on the buses, half of them going to SMU, half of them going to Cimarron, to the hole. I thought for sure I was going to SMU, but our bus got mixed up with the other one, and they took us to Cimarron. So I was in the hole there.
So what level yard is Cimarron?
This was a 4-yard,
Okay.
high medium. Got to Cimarron, saw a bunch of the brothers, Aryan Brotherhood, that I knew from my other stints or from the streets. You know, already had a reputation, thought I was about all that. And when they let us out onto the yard, wasn't even out on the yard a month. And boom, Rodney King riots, LA, 92.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. So every time the doors opened, we fought with the blacks. It was intense until they finally locked us all down and got rid of the troublemakers, of which I was one. Went straight to writing unit. Writing unit, wrote out my time until I got out October 92. Was out from October 92 to June of 95. In county jail, probably a year during that time, in and out, in and out, in and out. Amassed in that amount of time 9 cases with 42 felonies. And I just read the pre-sentence report the other day. It's in my box at home, saying this man, not because of any faulty memory or not because of any lack of intelligence, has so many crimes and so many cases that he is like a one-man crime wave and needs to be locked up for the maximum amount of time possible, or he will soon, in parentheses, hurt a cop or kill a cop.
Holy shit.
Yes, that's what my pre-sentence report said. And I stood in front of the judge. Now, let me back up. In that world, I thought I was all that. Worked it to where, I mean, is it coincidence or is it just something way beyond that? That my judge went to law school with my lawyer and they played golf like once a month together. So with all those cases and all that trouble, got me a bond. The bond was $48,000 cash. Had all these people in the streets, my street running friends, doing this, doing that, selling this of mine, selling that. Couldn't come up with anything. So I picked up the phone, called my dad and said, Dad, I need $48,000 cash only bond. I promise you, I give you my word. If you bail me out, I will not run. I will face these charges. But I know I'm going to get probably 10 years or more. So I wanted to have a little bit of freedom before I go do all that time. And my dad said, boom, you'll be out tomorrow. So he called in, paid the bond, walked out, gave all my stuff away, walked out the back door of Madison Street Jail and had 4 guns right in my face. They arrested me on made up charges, no warrant number, walked me around the jail, rebooked me and held me for about 10 days till they got a SWAT team together and a chase team to watch me. And when I walked out the jail after 10 days, the next time, got into a truck, literally went 4 places and had a helicopter over us, 10 cars behind us. And as crazy as it sounds, and there are people who are in the town of Phoenix right now that can attest to everything I'm telling you, it happened exactly like this. Even though I was telling the guy driving, turn here, turn here, turn here, somehow we got into a gauntlet of cones and police officers, just like a movie, and the helicopter right above us and stopped, boom, opened the doors, put us on the asphalt and put us each in a separate car and pulled about a block away and they pulled me into a dark parking lot, opened the door. Stephen Hinderleiter, thank you, Stephen. He saved my life later. He was the head of fugitive task force. He was like my nemesis. He had the cop open the back door, yanked me out, took the cuffs off, and said, "Thanks for leading us right to her." They didn't even want me. They wanted my girlfriend who had warrants, and they couldn't find her and couldn't get her and almost got her like 3 times. They were kicking doors in while I was locked up all this time. And
Wow.
yes.
You didn't know any of that?
No. And I was looking at him and I go, wait a minute. Are you telling me none of this was for me? It was for her? And he said, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Now get out of here. And my heart was in my throat. I thought they were going to kill me. I thought they wanted me to start walking away so they could kill me and say I tried to escape. And I just said, well, wait a minute. You want me to just walk away? And he said, I'm not going to tell you again. Get out of here. This was all for Kim. Hi, Kim. Yeah, you were there. And literally started walking and kept turning around and started running and got away. So after that happened, that was while I was on bond for 3 months, almost to the day, and then kicked the door in, doing a collection. My friend, Psycho, John Hendricks, what's up, Johnny, was shot 6 times point blank with a .45 automatic, died twice in the hospital, 230-pound monster, won't sleeve down from his chin to his toes. I went and saw him in the hospital, about 130 pounds, tubes hanging out of him, barely alive. And I said, brother, when you get out of here, if you get up out of that bed and get out of here, we're going to go make that right. Because people where he stayed sold everything he owned. Well, they thought he died. Mm-hmm. They thought they could just have their way with all this stuff. I said, if you get up out of that bed, you come find me and we'll make this right. So here it is, a couple months later, he gets well enough to get out on the streets and comes right to me and says, Kenny, let's go make that right. And I had given him my word. So we did. And we held a bunch of people. That's where the kidnapping charge came from. If you grab a car key from somebody and tell them sit down, that's kidnapping. I didn't do anything weird or crazy.
So you're just holding them against their will.
That's all you have to do is say, sit right there. And that's what I did. A titty dancer, a couple other people came into the house. I said, this has nothing to do with you. Give me those car keys. I'll put them on the counter. Sit down. Stay out of it. So emptied the house of everything worth anything, and I ended up getting 9.25 years for that. And that exacerbated everything else. Then I got 9.25 for conspiracy to buy off or sell. I got 4.5 years for controlling a criminal enterprise, and 5.5 years for money laundering, which they gave me later, brought me back to court with a whole bunch. I had like 300 co-defendants. The Margaretta case, everybody knows about that one. So that's when I got the 28.5 years.
So now going backwards, just a very quick clarification on bond. So your father put up $48,000.
Yes.
Now you said you weren't going to run. How much of that does your father get back after you go back in the system?
The thing about bondsmen is if you have a $10,000 bond and you use a bondsman, you're paying them 10% and they're putting up the bond for the rest. Mm-hmm. When it's a cash only bond, you pay a little fee to the bondsman and pay all cash, and my dad got all that back.
It's okay. So he got reimbursed.
Yes.
Okay. And
he was so happy when I was in county that he got all of it back. And I told him, I said, I gave you my word I wouldn't run. He said, wow, I'm amazed. I got the money back.
So essentially, the bond was refunded to your father because you did show for all of your appearances, though you were convicted of additional crimes.
Yes. Well, I was only out 3 months to the day and only had like 2 court dates that I actually went to and made, and then caught that new case for the home invasion, and which was basically just a collection. And because I was arrested in the midst of that crime, basically, there was no need to yank the bond.
So Now, my other question, because you were on such a wonderful roll, I didn't want to stop you, but you were mentioning all of these different groups, from the Bloods of the Crips and the Whites and the Aryans and the Norteño, or was it
Norteños, Norteños.
That's it. I apologize. So, what was your affiliation? Was there an affiliation?
I was asked to patch up with the hood a couple times, but as corny as it sounds, my life aspirations were to become a Hell's Angel if I was going to be wrapped up with anybody. And I actually thought that was going to happen, but God thought differently. Because let me fast forward to getting locked up from that home invasion that second time, May 11th. There was an old man in my cell, and he was coughing, and he was real annoying. And this is 1996, May 11th, in Madison Street Jail on the 3rd floor. And I told the guy, roll your stuff up and go. I respect my elders, but I don't want to hurt you. So he rolled his stuff up and left. And the reason the date, May 11th, is so significant was because the next day, on May 12th, my birthday, 1996, this guy rolls into the pod, 240 pounds, massive, inked down Aryan warrior from Nevada. And I go, wow, nice, I got a good celly. And I had a book that I was reading at the time on my pillow open that was the Gestapo, about the Germans. And I jumped up from playing my card game, walked in my cell. I said, hey, what's up, brother? What's your name? He told me, and we shook hands and everything. And he goes, what's that right there? What are you reading? I go, that's about my people, man. It's about the Gestapo. And he said, really? There's nothing there for you, man. It's dead history. And I said, wow, because he had political ink too. I go, why do you say that? And he picked the Bible up and said, this right here is life. That there's nothing for you. And I said, yeah, I had a whole little speech. Yeah, the book is written for Jews, by Jews, 2,000 years ago. It's really got no relevance on my life right now. I'm down for right now, crystal pistols and motorcycles and all that. I had a whole little speech, the these and days and nows. I'm not down with that. I don't understand it. Hey, don't get me wrong. I believe in God. I'm just not down for all that. I'm not like a religious person or anything. And little did I know, he filled out a tank order, which is a request for something in county jail. The next morning, absolute mind-blowing miracle in itself, I woke up and looked on my door, and there was a book. And I walked over there and grabbed that book and picked it up and pulled that tank order off of it, and it said, I would like a New International Version Bible. And he forged my name and signed it. And I looked at him, and I said, hey, what's this? What's up with this? He jumped off the bed, walked over to me and looked me right in the eye and said, that's a New International Version. It doesn't have any these and days and nows. You can understand that one. Now you have no excuse. And I just went, whoa. And I said, hey, what's that book about Daniel and the lions? What is that? And he goes, that would be the book of Daniel. So I started reading the book of Daniel, and to make a very profound, incredible religious or experience with God, all condensed down, I couldn't put the book down. I just started reading it and just started devouring it and could not put it down. And for the next 9 years, I was so into the Word and so down for the truth because it totally transformed my life. Cleaned my language up, made me love every day. Even though I was locked up, I was totally free for the first time. And that's really hard for somebody to comprehend, but it's true. I felt like I was locked up when I was outside, and now I felt like I was free on the inside. And because of my change and some indiscretions from the past with political people, I had a green light put on me, and I got the Cimarron. And it was really trippy because when I went to Alhambra, God had told me, you're going to Cimarron. And I told a bunch of the youngsters in my pod, I said, well, I'm going to Cimarron. So they pulled a bunch of us out at 4 a.m. Everybody knows the routine at Alhambra. And we all got chained up to a chain, and they said we were going to Florence. And this youngster, 2 guys in front of me, said, yeah, I guess God didn't tell you correctly, huh? You're going to Florence. right after he said that, a black cop named Moore, how are you doing, Mr. Moore? Really cool guy, stopped and said, I need a couple guys that are going to Tucson instead of Florence. And he pointed right at me and right at that youngster that opened his mouth and right at another guy and unlocked our lock, pulled us off the chain and said, you guys are all going to Tucson. And I said, I know, we're going to Cimarron. I said, how about that? And we ended up going right to Cimarron. Got to Cimarron, had a green light on me, had people there that were just dying to put something sharp and cold inside of me. And a guy that I don't even know, and this all incredibly shot my faith into the stratosphere. A guy I didn't even know and didn't even like stepped between a knife and me and saved my life. And they put a green light on him because of it. And they ended up locking us in the hole and screaming at me, telling these guys, we just saved your life. And I said, I'm not a tattletale, I'm a child of God. And you didn't save my life, God did. So they moved me across the street to Rincon. And the warden pulled me in his office, said, yeah, all that drama over there, you thought you were a superstar, huh? Now they want to kill you. Well, guess what? You're not going to bring that drama on my yard. And I said, hey, look, I know it seems like that, but really, I'm done with all the politics, okay? It's not a crutch. I'm not trying to get out early. My life has been dramatically changed by the word of God, and that's what I'm down for now. And he said, oh, really? Okay, we'll see. Remember, this is on a 4-yard in 1996. They walked me to a cell. The cop opened the door with a wicked grin on his face and said, boom, here's your new cell. And I kind of looked at him, and I looked in the cell, and it was a Mexican. Unheard of that they would mix races in 1996. Unheard of. And I looked at the guy, and he's reading the Bible, Schofield Reference Bible. I'll never forget it. And I said, hey, brother, are you a child of God? And he said, well, yes, I am. And I looked at the cop and I said, I got me a great cellie, thank you. And moved all my stuff in. And the cop just, his jaw dropped. He didn't know what to say.
They were trying to set up a hit, weren't they?
Of course.
Yeah.
So they slammed the door, locked me in. I actually was his cellie for about 6 weeks and had people on me and saying this and saying that. But guess what? I never tripped or was afraid. And a week later, I had one of the best jobs on the yard. 3 weeks later, I had 2 of the best jobs on the yard. I'd work for rec during the day and in the store with who would become my next cellie, Mark Herndon. Love you, Mark. How you doing? He's in Colorado right now, lives right by Pikes Peak. And literally worked at the store at night, worked at rec in the day, had a key to my own room, cactus gardens, cottonwood trees, never been on a prison yard like that. And it just did something for my faith because it showed me if I stayed down and listened to God, that the possibilities are endless. It's sky is the limit.
So now, and I might be flash forwarding ahead of your story, but you're greenlit. That doesn't just go away.
Oh, it didn't. So
how does that play out?
Well, over the next 7.5 years, now granted I had been in county quite a while, just got to prison, had the incident at Cimarron, to the hole, over to Rincon now. Literally every time a brother or somebody new hit a yard, I'd have people whispering in my ear. And it's literally amazing, and it's way beyond my power. It had to be God, and I recognize this every time, is whoever had a problem with me would inevitably end up right next to me. So when the doors cracked, I would say, hey, brother, boom, I know we have an issue. Let's take a walk and discuss it. And we always ironed it out, and it always worked out. Every time I was getting ready to go to a new yard, I went from Rincon to Tonneau Unit in Safford. As soon as I got to Tonneau Unit, people, well, yeah, you got problems with this guy, and it's going to be bad. I'd get there, and we'd take a walk. Everything would work out. We went from Tonneau to Graham Unit, same thing. Oh, my God, this guy's over there. He's going to kill you. He's talking about killing you all the time. I get there, shot caller for the yard, Billy Dutremaine, 66 number, 6 foot, 6 inch tall. Love you, Billy. Thank you. He pulled me up. He said, Kenny, these guys straight up talking really bad about you. What are you going to do? I go, let's go talk to them. Let's handle it right now. We did. Everything worked out. Boom. Everything was great. Went from Graham Unit. Granted, they said I would never leave the yard. They said I would never be on a minimum or at a place with dorms. Charles Goldsmith, the warden that pulled me into his office and yelled at me and said, you know, gave me the whole speech, he ended up transferring all the way across the state to Safford. He's the one I saw him in the yard and I told him, Mr. Goldsmith, my counselor just told me I will never leave the yard, that I'm not even a candidate. Can you help me with that? He said, go see your counselor tomorrow. I went and saw my counselor the next day, and he wouldn't even look at me. He said, here, sign that paper and get out of my office. Boom, gave me a clearance to go out the gate. Then when I wanted to get on the fire crew from Graham Unit, asked Goldsmith, hey, can you help me hook this fire crew thing up? He said, yeah, go talk to your counselor. Went and talked to him. He said, you're on the list. Got moved over to Fort Grant and ended up being a squad leader with 7 guys underneath me with my own radio, sleeping in the forests, eating in restaurants in town, and fighting over 30 fires a year all over the state of Arizona. The year 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002.
Wow. So
Wow.
So
You're basically on a permanent work release.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. We still, when the fire was over, we still went back to prison. But I'll tell you one thing about being a wildland fire crew.
But you weren't overnighting lockdown at that point.
Oh yeah.
Pardon?
Yeah. We were prisoners. And when a fire jumped, they would call us out. We'd dress out in street clothes, firefighting clothes. Mm-hmm. And we would go to the fire and fight it. And a lot of times we'd go from that fire to another fire to another fire. You know, monsoon season, all the dry lightning, there's fires everywhere. You see it on the news. I mean, there's hundreds of fires. So there's different crews, but our crew, Fort Grant, was called one of the first because we were one of the best crews. And there's 21 guys in our crew, 3 squads, squad 1, squad 2, squad 3, 7 men in a squad. And you got a sawyer, one with the saw, a swamper that cleans up everything he cuts, and then you got all the different people with McLeods and Pulaskis that finish out the crew, that make the fire line, you know, and do whatever else is needed. So I was the squad leader, the 3rd squad, and when we got done, we would go back to prison and be a prisoner again.
So who is flying the plane dropping the stuff on?
That's state land or state fire.
Okay.
Those are totally different entities.
You're not running the tanker, then you're not flying around.
I could only imagine. But no, I never did.
Bummer. Still a success, though, at this point.
Well, the one thing that I wanted to say was the fire crew teaches you that this right here is your breakdown. Because when you are in a line of 21 men and you have to climb a mountain that's 2,000 or 3,000 feet high, and you have to keep going in line, and you're just going to work, you haven't even started working yet, you realize when you don't want to take one more step, you want to curl up in a ball and start sucking your thumb, but you can't. Because the guy in front of you isn't quitting and the guy behind you isn't quitting. And you are at your wit's end. But something inside you rises up and makes you push that much farther and go that much farther. I used to lie to myself and say, only 3 more steps, only 3 more steps, or I'm just going to go to that tree right there. And as soon as I got there, I'd lie. Okay, maybe that next tree. And it does something to you. And that's exactly what I know the military does to people, is it breaks you all the way down and builds you back up into a team, into a unit, to where you are way beyond anything you thought you could ever do on your own. And it was an exhilarating epiphany that taught me that this right here, I'm just going to say it as raw as possible. I was a straight pussy right here. I would quit way before I had to. And that experience taught me, man, I'm not quitting. I can do anything. And it served me well.
So you developed faith, and then you developed diligence and self-control.
That's the best way to put it right there. I could ramble for 5 minutes and not say it better.
Absolutely. So now you're in this last long bit of stuff. You're fighting fires, you're greenlit, you're bouncing around, and now you get on this minimum yard, you get all these extracurricular freedoms. So now how do you transition out to where you're at today?
That's a great question, because the other part of being on the Wildland Fire Crew was we talked to street people. We talked to other hotshot crews. We ate in restaurants. We slept in the forest with forestry people. So it was an incredible experience to transition me onto the streets. But with all that being said, I'm just going to say this. Inside, what changed my heart, what was my greatest life epiphany, was when I realized that shooting dope, smoking dope, snorting dope, eating dope, whatever it may be that whoever's out there listening does to get high, drink a lot, smoke a lot, slam a lot, it doesn't matter. That is not getting high, okay? That is sorcery. And it is amazing that in the Word of God, all through the Word, sorcery means divination, talking to the dead, doing different weird stuff, tarot cards, all that weird stuff. But in our time, in the book of Revelation, the word sorcery has a different root word. It changes. And that new root word for our time, we're talking about the end times, is now pharmakeia in the Greek. Pharmakeia is where pharmacy and pharmaceuticals come from. And the definition in the Strong's Concordance says pharmakeia is one who is enchanted or being enchanted or enchanting others under the influence of potions and drugs. And that's from 2,000 years ago, written for our time. That's very interesting, isn't it? So breaking the addictive rut for me came through my faith in God, and learning that that is not getting high, that is getting locked up, punked out, strung out, all of the bad adverse side effects. And there's a lot of people who can use and be weekend warriors and almost live a normal life. I'm not one. Once I start using, I go off the deep end and it all ends badly. That's me. So when I realized that getting high was sharing my faith with others and watching the light bulb turn on, it was a huge life epiphany, because no longer did I seek a change of head that came out badly. I understood that getting high was helping others learn and know the truth.
Building relationships.
Yes, it was a big, big change in my life.
So now you're out, you're free, and it's obviously been like 11 months. So what are you up to now? What's life?
It had been a bit longer than that, wasn't it? It's been almost a year and a half that you've been out.
Okay, well, I got out in 2004 and paroled to California, lived with my mom and dad, first time since I was like 16, and went from working in Oakland at the Goodwill, driving a truck, first working on the docks, then driving a truck, then driving a limo for Black Tie Limousine, big company in the Bay Area, and being very involved in the church, going into juvenile halls and boys' homes, speaking to the kids, very gratifying, loved everything, met a woman, married her, had two beautiful boys. The mortgage meltdown happened. I had my own business. I went from the limousine to starting my own business with my brother-in-law, making over $1,000 a day, only working like 2 weeks out of the month. And the other 2 weeks I'd do bids and paperwork and stuff. So, I'm bringing in a lot of money, doing really good, and got comfortable and spoiled and let my guard down. Mortgage meltdown happened, went from making all that money to making nothing, hating it, and ended up moving to Washington and working on a shipyard. Got hurt really bad, hurt my sciatic nerve and my lower back, and started on the painkillers. And the painkillers led to opiates, and the opiates led to my favorite drug, speed. Speed led me to my whole family being destroyed. My ex, who at the time we ended up getting a divorce, moved back to California with the children. I followed them back down to the Bay Area. Things went really bad. And my dad begged me to leave state because he knew they were going to get really bad. And he heard me on the phone setting up, doing terrible things to the guy she was seeing. And there's a big reason for that. I grew up with him and he betrayed me, et cetera, et cetera. So I flew out here, total bitter heart, broken inside, was a complete fool, and ended up catching 5 years for a handgun at a motel. And
Just possession of the gun?
Yep,
Yep.
just possession of the gun. Well, it was initially aggravated robbery and robbery with a deadly weapon. It would have given me life. I called my dad from county jail, said, Dad, wow, this is going to go really bad. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll either bail you out or pay for your lawyer. What you want? I said, if you bail me out, I'm going to just get more charges. It's going to end badly. He said, I'm glad you said that. I'll get the lawyer for you. So I got Melody Harmon, an incredible lawyer. Hi, Melody. She's a judge now. Incredible woman. Great legal representation. She got me 5 years, which was unheard of because of my record. Got out June of 2019, June 10th. Today is October 20th, 2020. Been out roughly a year and a half. Started at K2 Electric, went from K2 Electric to doing other things, and then working for S&S Paving as a heavy equipment operator, and then just landed a job a couple months ago at New Freedom, which is an incredible halfway house rehab, largest in the state, just up and running, and it's very gratifying work, and I love everybody I work with. They are pretty much all on the same page, as far as faith-wise. And by the way, I haven't had even a sip of beer or any other drug to change or alter my consciousness since I was arrested May 15th, 2015. And that brings us up to today.
Well, congratulations, first and foremost. That's a story that most people in your position with your history can't say the same.
It is, as corny as it sounds, I really have to give the glory to God, because you cannot change the stripes of a zebra, you can't change the spots of a jaguar, but you can change a man's heart. You see people that until the day they die, they still do the same things and are still the same, either real good guy or real scumbag or real violent person. But a lot of the bad things that were prevalent in my life are now all erased and behind me, and I'm not looking back. I'm just striving to go forward. So thank you, Lord.
Well, so that's a very incredible story, and we had a lot of conversations. He's going to be a regular guest on our show. We're going to see a lot more of him over the next couple of months to a couple of years. He's going to be making regular appearances. He can talk for literally 30 plus hours and has crazy stories, from his car collection to some of the other things that he didn't elaborate on today. So definitely like a teaser for you to look forward. Every time we have this man on, you have to tune in and watch. And that leads us to the conclusion. If you're enjoying the content, you know you love this man. He's awesome. So like, subscribe, follow, whether you're watching this as a video or you're listening to this as an audio podcast. All the links will be down below in the description for what you need to know next to follow this man and follow the rest of our shows and hear some of our other journeys. And as always, we're going to see you next Wednesday. Check it out.
Got to hook me up with your teeth guy. Fantastic new grill you got there.
Yes, it is an expensive, fantastic new grill.
I need to fix me up myself.
Yes, indeed.